Hello, I hope you all are doing so well. I had some thoughts over the last couple of days that I wanted to share, and it's almost as if those have kind of gone out the window. But I really felt this need to just kind of turn the camera on and start talking, which is unusual. But start talking as in it's time to really express. It's time to really bring these things through. These are the energies that are coming through as well. And what this is feeling like right now for many people is this sense of this isn't working anymore, this past stuff. And we're seeing that through everything that's going on in the world right now. I was having a moment where I was kind of scrolling through social media, and I realized, and I don't go on a whole lot of platforms very much at all anymore, but when I do, it's always interesting what I see. And trying to make sense of things in my mind too. And what I noticed was some reactions to a particular video that had been put up and then taken down and all the, one of those things. And it was interesting because people would come in and be like, okay, here's my background and this is why you should listen to what I have to say. And here's all these points that were made in this video. And here's a link that supports this. And here's a link that supports that. And here's a link that supports this. And then someone else did the exact same thing, except it was like, here's a link that refutes that. Here's a link that refutes that. And this isn't true. And that's not true. So it's like in this realm, in this time and space, you can find any argument that you want to find to support or to refute anything. So in some ways, it's like all that information out there is essentially null and void because we really don't even know what we can trust. And we really can't trust anything unless we know the origin of it anyway, because we can manipulate things any which way we choose. And so what does this mean? It's about the intent and it's about the agenda behind the intent. And that is not something that is ever made clear to us when we're looking out in the 3D physicality. And that's even when we're just talking with another person, right? I'm always like, someone will say something and I always want to clarify, like, well, wait, where are you coming from when you say this? Like, it's not enough that people are just saying things. And this isn't even in relation to all the stuff that's going on right now, right? It's just in general, even kind of conversation. It's like when someone makes a statement about something, it's like, well, wait a minute, where are you coming? Like, what's the background story of like where you formed this belief or this opinion, or where did this even come from, So it's like wanting to understand that underlying intention. And this is where we have to understand that we are at now, is that no one is putting forth, this is authentic communication, right? And we don't mean just speaking, communicating with our energy, with our light. What is that authentic expression of ourselves as light beings, right? And when we are not coming through the light, the expression, the intention of the expression and the agenda is not clear. When we're coming from the light, it's always, and this is maybe simplifying things, but it's always a space of love. And I don't mean, oh, you can tell because someone's coming from the very loving place, because they can be trying to exude loving energy, and yet within their energetic field, there's something that's a bit off, right? There is some other kind of agenda, which perhaps they are even unaware of in their own energy field. So I'm not saying like it just means you come across as a very loving person. That is not it at all. What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter what is going on in the outside reality right now, because we are not going to be able to know what that underlying intent of expression is. And it doesn't matter, because all we are here to do is to come from our own space of authentic expression. And, if we are these true light beings who are here to do what we say we're here to do, there isn't this questioning. We are driven from the heart space to express authentically. And the reason that's so challenging is that we look out in the world and there's nothing here that actually supports that, right? When we feel this passion and this drive, we're challenged all the time. How do we fit into what is already here? And this is what we have to drop. We're not trying to fit into anything here. We are here. We created this realm and this space. It's like we don't have to ask for permission to be here. But we do have to learn in this time and space now that we just need to stand up and be who we are and stop looking for validation, stop looking for permission to do that, because we're not going to receive it. It's like, this is the separation now, right? It's like, let that play out, let that do what it's going to do. And we have to come over here, because if we are looking at that, trying to fit into it in some way, or where do we fit, we're not going to find a space to fit into it. There's nothing there for us. It's over here. We come here and we express, and then maybe people over here are like, wait, why does that sound completely different from what I'm feeling over here? Like, this just is easier and it makes sense, and it doesn't have that kind of crippling, like, underlying sand, like rock in my shoe feeling, you know? So we're not trying to turn people. We're not trying to make people see things our way. We just are. We just express who we are as we are. And that's enough. And yet then all that mental stuff comes in, right? That says, well, you're not enough, like, because you're not living. Again, it's like we have to drop all of that and come over here. And this is the challenge we've been facing, because we've been trying to do it through these other systems, right? But yet now it's like there's been this parting of the waters. There's been this separation through the fields where we can come in and just simply express who we are. But we have to relearn that in many ways. What is that even like? What does that feel like? What does that look like? And this is where, in a sense, we have this feeling of like, I need to go off on a mountaintop and sit with myself for a little while, because the only way I know how to express and to be was through this societal programming. So again, it's unlearning all of that, and not even unlearning it as much as just allowing. And this is where we say we have to surrender into who we are. We have to surrender into the light. And this is not the new age love and light mantra that we've heard over and over again. This is something totally different. This is now we're just having to listen to our own voice and to our own energy, to our own intuition. Whereas before I'd be like, well, that's crazy. I can't do that. Like, how am I going to do that? That makes no sense. Now we're feeling this. There is no other choice. We don't fit in. The harder we try to fit in over here, the more painful it is, right? So you have no choice in many ways than to come and commune with your own energy, with your own soul. And it's going to be a completely different experience than anything that you've been feeling at or anything that you've been trying to do so far. And this is what I continually find through my own work. It's like, even working with others, right? Our souls are going where our souls haven't been able to go before, through a physical form. And so when we run into people, even when I work with people a lot, right? It's like, I am finding that I have to take a break. Like, I have to take, and maybe this is something I need to start doing like every month, just to take my own space, because it's like, I want to go here and I need to go here. And yet all these energies are like, okay, this is where I am and I'm here. And like, you can't go there yet because I need this or that. And again, we don't even know that we're doing this through our energy fields, but you may be feeling this as well, where it's like, I just need to get away. I need to get away, even though we're like in isolation, right? But it's like, I need to get away from all this noise in my head and all these things that are telling me that I have to be here and show up in this way and do this. It's like, but it's also killing me. It's draining me. And it's totally uncomfortable. And so now this is where we're starting to hear the call of our own soul. And we talk about, okay, divine timing and things like this. And surrendering to a higher power or to source or whatever it is. And that's not actually quite it either. What we're really doing is surrendering to the call of our own soul, to our own light. We had this plan when we came in, right? These intentions. Where did those go? We were never really able to fully connect into that. And so in this time and space now, it's about opening that back up through our heart. It's like, here's your map. Here's what you came to do. And it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder I couldn't make it work before, because there were so many constraints and there was nowhere to put this. But now we do, these things are opening up. But it's now having to re-surrender, because I feel like a lot of us have done that, right? Like, I surrender. Oh my God, I give up. I can't figure this out. Please, something come in and help me, right? But now we're surrendering through our conscious mind, through the knowing of who we are as an energetic light being. There's this maturity now through the fields, which can say, okay, I'm ready to take up my light. And this knowing that is coming through, because we know this is absolutely not working for us. It makes absolutely no sense. And even when we try to talk to those things over here, right, it's like they can't hear us anyway, because they're so rooted in their own agenda, right? And I've said this before, it's like we stay stuck because we're getting something from that. And so we have to allow for this complete release, even for ourselves, of everything we have ever thought and known about ourselves. Because if we cannot release that out, then we're still operating within a form of a constraint, right? There's some kind of compartmentalization going on through our fields. So to be able to fully surrender and release all that we think we know, all that we have experienced, all that we have tried to define ourselves as a human being, this is where we're going. It's a complete and utter surrender. And I was saying this to someone else too. It's like the way that we create in this physical realm through the light is different than what we have been taught. Generally, if we want to achieve something in this life, we formulate this goal or this idea that we are then going to move towards, right? So this is all kind of within the already 3D physically manifested realm. How do we get what we want? Okay, let's make a plan. Let's take these steps to move towards it, right? But when we are working through the light, it doesn't work that way at all. First, you feel the energy and you have to integrate that, which means that first you feel and you have to take a step towards that, even though there is no image and there is no picture, because this is how creation works, right? It's like, I know I need something. I have no idea what it is though, but it's like I have to also move towards it at the same time before the next step shows itself. And this isn't, this kind of cruel way of like, oh, let's test you. Let's see how loyal you are, how faithful you are to God or to your light or to source or to whatever. It's not that at all. It's just that this is how manifestation within the light works, because it's a soul calling. It's a calling through the heart space that something is required, that something needs to be done. But that's just that pure creative drive. And that's what the light is. We create solely for the purpose of creation. And how do you actually do that as a human? You have to follow your heart's calling. And yet where your heart is calling you, there is nothing actually there yet. And there is no path. You create that path through taking that step towards this energetic impulse that you feel in your field. So it's a totally different thing than what we have been taught and the way we may have achieved our goals in the past. First, we dream it, even though we may not have a clear picture of what that is. But we dream it because we're feeling it. Whereas in the physical reality, we say, okay, well, what do I need? I want this. Like, I want a house. Okay, well, a house is a very specific kind of, right, thing. Like, it's fixed. And those steps are laid out. How do you achieve a house? But over here, it's like, I don't know what this is in the physical. I just feel this energetic impulse to create or do or be something different than where I feel like I am right now. Like, what is that? That's an energy that we have to move towards. And our conscious mind doesn't quite understand that yet. So the only way that we start to formulate that in the physical is to move towards that impulse. And sometimes it's like, well, do I need to write? Do I need to write a blog? Should I write a book? I feel like there's something here that needs to be said or expressed. Or do I draw? Or do I find a new job? Or like, do I just need new shoes? Like, what is the problem here? What's going on, And so sometimes we have to test that out when we take all these steps and it doesn't work out here, or this isn't exactly how we maybe imagine this should feel, right? But it's like, but once we do it, this is the thing, right? We're tuning in to this impulse that we're feeling. Once we take that correct step, we feel that match to this energy, right? We're like, oh, this is it. But we have to test it out and try it out first before we even know what that is. It's like, it's not, oh yeah, I need new shoes, I have to go get new shoes. It's like, this is unknown. I don't know what this energy is, but I need to start moving towards things and finding out what that is. Is this about connecting with other people? I'm not really sure. Is this just about doing something on my own or expressing something of my own self? This is the phase we're in right now, is testing that out, testing out these, well, I was going to say these grounds, but it's like this water, this flow, right? Rather than having these predefined ideas through the human. And this is what it is to start to express your light fully and completely. And yet we don't quite know how to do that yet, right? It's all this kind of testing and trying and stumbling. There's a lot of stumbling along the way. But until you actually take that step and stumble and figure out that's not the right step, you can't possibly know what the other step could be. And that is the creative process, you know, and anyone who does create will tell you that too. It's like, you just have to sit down and create the space to actually create. And that's the strange thing sometimes. It's like, this is what the heart truly desires anyway, but yet we feel like, I can't make space for me just to be in the unknown, to be in the space of creation. Like, that's a waste of time. But yet, true creation is outside the bounds of time anyway. So it's a very weird space to be in. And yet we are being called to start to understand this process of creation and manifestation through the light here in the physical realm, which is completely different from what we have been living and understand to be the truth of who we are. And yet we're also finding that, okay, this is not working for me anymore, and it's really frustrating, and it's making me really upset, and I just can't even go in there anymore. It's like, I need something else. And this is what that something else is. It's to listen to that calling through the heart and that impulse. Even though we're like, it's like when you wake up from a dream, right? And you're like, oh my God, I had this dream, but it's like, oh, but it's just a dream. Okay, it doesn't really matter. And yet, whoa, actually, that is what matters. The stuff dreams are made of. But we've been taught we have to drop that. You know, it's not realistic. And yet, I'm always reminded that the rest of humanity never thinks things are possible until someone does it for the first time, right? So it's like, we're the first timers. We're here to show that these things can be done. Whatever that is, right? We don't maybe know yet, but we have to start walking towards it. You know, I just get this image of like a war-torn kind of country. It's like, okay, can't stay here because of all this radiation. It's going to kill you anyway. So you might as well go towards the horizon, even though there's nothing there. And yes, it's light, but it's like empty. Well, this is going to kill you anyway. So we have to go in this direction. There is this energy also of, yeah, I think what is coming up through the fields is a lot of this, and this may be triggering a lot of people. I'm sure in childhood, you know, we were kind of silenced when we had these like over kind of expressive states of being. It was like, calm down, don't be so exuberant, like you need to settle down, children should be seen and not heard kind of energy. There's this internal battling almost, like I just want to be heard, even though it's probably not feeling to us like that. It's more just like this pressure of like, I know I need something. It's like when you're hungry, right? You're like, I know I need something, but I have no idea. I don't have a taste for anything. I don't know what to eat. I don't know what's going to satisfy me. It's this hunger, right? To connect to our own light. But we have to figure out how to do that because that hasn't been present here before. Or at least in a way that was acceptable, right? Because when we did connect with our light, we were killed or tortured or beaten or whatever. these energies though that are coming up is like this, I want to be heard, I want to be seen, and yet we're trying to go into what already exists to try to be seen and heard. And it has this, this energy that keeps coming up is like when someone gets so red-faced and upset because they're like, you're just not hearing my point and I can't get this across to you. It's like, you're not going to get it across over there, and that's not what we're actually here to do. And I said this before, right? Like, stop trying to uplift humanity, because they're not going to hear it until they're ready to hear it. But they're not going to hear it over there because they're not supposed to be within this realm, right? Like, this is what's collapsing. We're over here, and so why would you want to try and put your message out there anyway? It's like, put it here where they can see that there's somewhere to come. There's a platform over here, there's a way, there's a path over here, because you're creating it and you're showing people how to do it. It's an extraction from those fields, right? So it's like, why put it here when this is going to collapse anyway? Build your own foundation, and people will flock to that when they see the light. And so I think this is a lot with, I think people are struggling with too. It's like, well, how do I do this? Where do I go? Do I post a video? Do I make a blog? How do I communicate what it is I want to communicate? It's like, no, don't. You build your own house based on yourself, on your light, right? Like, what you do for yourself is going to heal you, because you're tapping into what you need anyway. That's what creation is. It's like this underlying knowing that something is needed, and then we create it. And what we're actually creating is that healing. And in healing ourselves, we're able to help heal others, right? So it's not about what can I create to solve this problem that's over here. It's about creating in accordance with what we feel our impulse to be, to create, which may not make any sense right now based on what we're seeing and experiencing and living in. And sometimes we create things and we're like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. We find this with even, all these puzzle pieces, right? Years later, we'll find something that we wrote down in a journal or a dream we had. And then we're like, oh my God, now it makes sense. Like, this is what we're doing, right? We're building the foundation with our light without even knowing yet what it is. But because we're building in the light, we know that it will be needed at some point. At some point, it will make sense, even if it doesn't make sense now. It's like, just start moving towards that. As you move towards that, you start to define what that actually is. And you may not be able to say, okay, this is what this is, but you will start feeling the shift in your own heart and your own light and your own field. You will start to feel healed, even though maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet. But in doing that, you're healing yourself. And we're here, yes, to assist humanity, but not to assist the humanity that exists, to assist the humanity which is to be, which is yet to be. And how do we do that if we're only trying to work over here, right? We have to come in here into the unknown, where things are unmanifested, and to call that impulse, that light from within us over here to create. And through the human consciousness, sometimes we don't quite know what that is yet, but you just start building. And because you're within the light, within your true integrity, you don't have to worry about, well, what exactly is this yet? We can just start building, knowing that it's in accordance with what we came here to do. So, and that's the magic of it, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what I create, it's going to be okay. I just need to start creating and to start doing. And yeah, sometimes we have to go through iterations, right, to find the most appropriate way through. But that's also the beauty and the fun of creation. That's the joy of creation. Okay, I'm going to leave this here. I'm sending you so much love. I know it's not easy right now. I know there's a lot of pressure from all different areas. And I can feel this. But it's really to step out from this constraint that we're feeling right now. And if it's, sometimes we're not able to just go in and start creating. It's really needing to sit and get right with one's own self, because we've been so locked out of what is even our true vibration, right? What is my voice? What does that sound like? My true expression, my authentic expression, which is unencumbered. We don't even know what that is because we've been so infiltrated, who we think we are as a soul, as a light being, while that has lots of other energies added into it. And we've identified that through the human as thinking, this is who I am. But for sure, you've got a lot of patterning and programming in there. And it's really remarkable when you start to release that out and you can say, oh my God, I was none of this. And then you're left with like, well, what am I then? You know, we have no identity in some sense. But how do we learn who we are? We just take our energy and our heart impulse and we create. And then we're like, oh my God, this is me. This is who I am. I think a lot of us are always like, who am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do in this world? What is my mission? But that's the beauty of co-creation. It's like you work through it, you achieve it, you build it. And then at some point you're like, oh, I kind of knew that, but then also not. Like, I couldn't have even imagined that this is what it would look like. But at the same time, I did have this feeling inside of me. But for the human, it's like until you actually move towards and start creating, it doesn't make any sense. So relearning how to create from our light space. Okay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care. We'll talk soon.